Yeah, I mean, any small contribution to society in terms of
Yeah,
like activism can make a positive impact.
yeah, yeah. I
So,
think so.
but um, I think the focus on like this individualist message, this kind of centrist message.
Well,
I
again, I don't really want to use the political compass.
uh,
I'm happy to not give a damn about the left-right paradigm. I'm interested in identification towards principles at this point. You know, what do you actually believe rather than what tribe you in?
yeah, I can understand that. But just the focus of the liberalists is it's very similar to what people have tried since the 90s, kind of this very moral universalist individualist perspective that we've really come to know since the 90s. But it's exactly that's these principles, this idea of we are all individuals that and we all kind of have this idea that liberalism kind of transcends culture. It's
It really doesn't matter whether it transcends culture or not. I don't care if other cultures adopt it or not. I recommend that they should, but if they don't, that's not my problem. But in my country, I want this culture back. We had this. We have deliberately let it go for continental ideas. I want this back. This is my ethnic heritage to have this. So I don't care whether some sub-Saharan African does this. I don't even care whether the Germans do this. I care that we do this in my country and probably other English-speaking countries. You know, that's my main concern. You know,
yeah, but the thing is these principles they are just so without a cultural foundation without it really just kind of collapses into itself. It kind of gets subverted very easily.
well, I'm not against the nation state having a cultural foundation. I never have been. I'm
No,
not like some society denying Margaret Thatcher. You know, I think that society is a thing. I think there is a fabric that does get damaged. You know, I think that people are groupish, and I would like my group to be the group of individualists.
oh yeah, the collective of individualists.
Yeah, the alt right not understanding that has been embarrassing, hasn't it?
Yeah, but that kind of yeah, that kind of gets you into the whole individualist versus collectivist thing, and it's um, the thing is everything. It's kind of how do I put this? It is inevitable that you really need to rely on some form of group identity,
I'm not
and
against the group identity. I'm not against the group. This is an alt right straw man.
I
I'm
never,
honestly fine with group identities. I just don't want the group to be a collectivist group. I want it to be an individualist group. It's like it must come from a misunderstanding of the term individualist. I'm not saying people are on their own, and I never have. This is the alt right. I mean, they say, "Oh, you're strawmanning us." Well, goddamn, you're strawmanning right back. You know, if and even Richard Spencer made this video, I might do a compilation of the alt right literally not understanding that the term individualist requires more than one person. I mean, it's in the dictionary. You know, it doesn't mean one person. You fucking idiots.
but it even if like you create a group which has a goal, you have a political goal, and you want a group to kind of establish that goal, which is to bring back these values that you outlined. You want to bring that back in Britain, but that is inevitably going to you what you essentially want is having a group that wants to impose their views on other people
Yes,
and
yes.
and I just hate the whole individualist collectivist dichotomy. That's why I just want to throw it away because it's very overlapping. You can these concepts like groups and individuals. These are such an overlapping things. It's like kind of saying whether a
Groups
forest
are
is
made
like
of individuals, but is the individual more important than the group? It's actually fairly simple. And if the answer is yes, then welcome to collectivism.
but like if you as a group want to say you want to preserve democracy, but another, but certain individuals don't want that. They want a different type of society. Then inevitably, either either you have to split up and form your own kind of societies, just have societies based on different ideologies, or your group is necessarily going to trample over those individuals. So either way,
Yeah, there's a reason that we lock up jihadis and people who are trying to overthrow democracy, and like yeah, I agree. There are boundaries. I'm not arguing for boundless tolerance.
oh no, that's not really.
A democracy has to take you are citizens of a democratic state. So, as citizens, you're expected to protect the state, and it's not that you can't do something radically different if you wanted to, but holy shit, if it's being imposed by a minority, then yeah, the majority should be resisting that. They should be resisting it with their votes. They should be. It's completely within our power to do that at the moment. We could just vote for people who are going to remove all this social justice cancer. We just have to do that. That's it.
But in the end, that is still a form of it's still a form of collectivism, because you use a group to impose certain political views. And I agree that those political views are more important than, say, I would rather live in a Western democracy than a communist state. And I'm willing to band together with a collective to prevent communists from emerging. But that is still a form of collectivist action, because you impose your will as a group on others. And the issue isn't whether it's collectivist or not. The issue is whether it's a good thing or not. And I'd argue that it's a good thing regardless of whether you call it individualist or collectivist.
Just because it's a group doesn't mean it's a collectivist group.
But
and what you're saying is that an individualist group should have no right to defend itself from people outside of that group.
No, I'm saying
the individualism, as far as I'm concerned, only applies to the in-group. I mean, you could be an SJW and suggest there should be no nations. I don't think there should be no nations. I think that the nation state has a responsibility to run a group in a certain way.
Well,
if there was like a central, world government, then yeah, I would be a worldwide individualist. But there isn't, so I'm not.
But I just said that I advocate the use of collective action to oppose certain.
Yeah, but collective action doesn't necessarily mean collectivism.
Well, what is your definition of collectivism?
Collectivism is putting the purpose and safety of the group above the individual.
So
collective action is not collectivism.
So Western democracy is meant to keep a group safe from dangerous individuals. Isn't that by definition collectivism?
No.
Why not? You just
because there are certain conditions on which we agree people have violated a social contract. But being a dangerous individual is what defines you as such. I don't consider prison to be oppression, frankly.
No, but it's still
it's not unfair or unjust punishment. It's totally just because you became a dangerous individual and the laws say that you have to be locked up.
But you as a group joined together to impose these laws so you could protect the group, the safety of the group. And to preserve the safety of the group, you would have to...
It's not to preserve the safety of the group, it's to preserve the safety of the individuals within the group.
But a group is by definition a collection of individuals.
Well, yes, it is. But like the purpose of defending the group doesn't necessarily have to involve any of the individuals. It could just involve one of them. You can look at like Stalinist Russia and see how unbelievably collectivist they were. It's about the value of the values held primarily in the system. It's not about how the system actually really operates. Well, actually it is. It kind of defines how the system operates. Sorry. I'm genuinely surprised that there's such confusion over this. And it's not to say that a group can't operate. Even, an individualist group, it's just, it has rules. It's the rules that you choose to run the group by. So if you're in an individualist society and you have a law, right, okay, part of this law is essentially going to be based on like Mill's no harm principle. Don't hurt anyone else and you won't go to jail. If you hurt someone else, you go to jail. That doesn't make it a collectivist system when someone chooses to break the law and then gets punished by the state. It's required by the state to punish that person, because otherwise it's not doing its job upholding the other people's rights. It's not a collectivist system because it has to take a collective action. It wouldn't be a system if it couldn't take collective action.
But your definition of collectivism was to preserve the group safety over the individual.
No,
That is
preserve the individual safety. Yeah. Yes.
That is
Sorry. Yes.
how you defined it. You
Yeah.
defined collectivism as preserving the group safety over the individual.
Yes.
So if a group of individuals want to establish laws that prevent so dangerous individuals from harming that group, then that is by definition collectivist. And the argument shouldn't be
Well, no,
whether it's
yeah, that would be,
collectivist or
but
not.
that's not
The
what I'm
argument,
advocating for. The point of principle I'm advocating for here is that it's not to protect the group itself, because as soon as you put that mentality in your head, all sorts of things become dangerous to the group. And then the thing is, right, a murderer it's not a danger to a group, is it? A murderer is never going to overthrow a nation. He's a danger to individuals.
well, he can be a danger to multiple individuals.
But if he's not a danger to the group, then a collectivist nation would then not care about murderers, surely. And this is the thing. This is where it's getting autistic. It's like, I think what I'm saying is pretty self-evident. It's a value that is the rights of the individual are more important than the rights of any group. I think that's and there are times when that's not appropriate, as in a world war. Yeah, okay, you can't do that. You have to become collectivist. But as soon as you're not in a world war, what's the justification for not doing that? I think it's inevitable that you're going to have to liberalize. And we're not in a world war. We're not in some dire straits. We're just letting a bunch of entitled busybody activists take over and actually start oppressing people that have individual rights, because we live in an individualist system. And they are trying to impose a collectivist system on them. I don't see what the inconsistency there is, honestly. And I don't see the reason that a group action should be inconsistent with that either.
Well, this is why this is exactly why I think the individualist collectivist thing is just really retarded. We shouldn't be arguing semantically whether it's collectivist or not, or whether some action is collectivist or not. I think we should argue whether it's a good thing or not.
Okay, well, I think that we should be arguing on a moral level rather than a utilitarian level.
Oh, I'm not saying
moral could end up, is a good thing for some people. I mean, I think if we make a moral argument for a method of action, that's more effective than appealing to someone's self-interest.
But saying that something is, if you say that something is, I'm not saying that it needs to be utilitarian, but I'm saying that whether something is collectivist or not is just not an. It's just going.
I don't think it should be like the argument. I don't think, well, you're a collectivist, therefore. No, that's a terrible argument. But it's just a shorthand, I suppose. I mean, we're talking in the political community. I assume that people knew what the word meant.
But you gave me your definition of collectivist.
That's the dictionary definition.
Yeah, and then I gave you an example of how exactly that fits with collectivism, and then you try to turn it around and kind of semantically argue why it's not collectivist.
Yeah, but I don't agree that was correct. I don't agree your interpretation there is correct. It's not I think your interpretation of the definition is definitely incorrect on that side.
How is it incorrect?
I've literally just explained it. Can we move on to the next subject? Because people listening to this will be able to just go back and listen to the explanation.
Yeah, exactly. Let's just move on to another topic.
I agree with you. The discussion is autistic because, I mean, at the end of the day, we're not going to agree on things. This is the thing. We're not going to agree on that point of principle with the collectivists. So obviously, but the important thing is we can both agree with, say, anti-immigration for different reasons, but the important thing is that people agree with anti-immigration laws, or principles, and moving forward towards something that's going to just reduce fucking immigration to the West. That has to be really has to be something that we do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's probably a lot that we agree on, but it's just kind of exactly. This is why I want to avoid the semantic issues about individualism and collectivism. I really just don't like these labels, and I want to show how arbitrary they can be and how they can overlap, basically.
Well, I think just using the term individual rights is enough, because really the term individual rights sums up everything, really.
Yeah, basically. I mean, I
The state
prefer.
doesn't have the right to tyrannize you just because it wants to.
Well,
I
I
it has to
prefer.
have a good reason.
I prefer to use like something like individual rights is like an easy way, easy practical way of saying fuck identity politics, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, but if people want to get more elaborate on that issue, then it can get really autistic, basically. And that's why I like to use more set in stone defined concept like natural rights and
hmm
property rights. Those are less abstract than concepts like individual rights, in my opinion. That is.
I agree with you there. I definitely agree with you.
That's great.